You're very welcome to EASD TV, and I have with me a cast of thousands on our sofas this morning to talk about technology. But can I just digress a little moment? During the making of a film about 60 years of EASD, I met a patient, someone living with diabetes for over 60 years, and he showed me some of the technology that was being used when he was first diagnosed, and it was really scary. They were given 2 glass syringes, which had to be boiled every day. They were given just 4 needles to last for 6 months, which were huge. And there was the most medieval torture device for injection. And the contrast between then and now is quite extraordinary. Now, every year, Diabetologia puts on a special symposium at the EASD, and in the 60th anniversary year, it's on technology. They've produced a special supplement for Diabetologia, which, of course, you can access online, and very worthwhile it is too. So let me introduce our guests in stages. So first of all, Anna Krook from the Karolinska, who was the reviewer on the special edition, and also Klemen Dovč from Slovenia. So tell us about how that was put together.
Well, Vivian, like you say, every year Diabetologia has a special issue, and we selected that this year we would focus on technology to highlight how much technology really has become part of the standard care for people living with diabetes, the challenges, but also the possibilities that this happens. And what we're particularly excited about in this issue is that we've tried to also include the voice of people living with diabetes. So they also have contributed to the special issue. And we're highlighting specialty in a symposium tomorrow afternoon.
Clem, tell me a bit more about the types of technology that you included.
So I think it's very important to acknowledge that the technology evaluation really moved from efficiency and safety to now becoming broader, more acceptable in different populations. So topics in this special issue really covers different ages from preschoolers to elderly, different circumstances, for example, physical activity, and also pregnancy. And as you mentioned, it's very important to acknowledge also the people's voice. So people who are actually using this technology day to day. So let's say person-related outcomes. What do they feel with this technology? How did it improve their lives?
Now, I know you're a pediatrician, so you're very much involved in children using devices, and that's a completely different set of needs. You have to be very robust, and things like glucose monitoring, where you don't want to wake children at night, for instance.
Definitely,
all sorts of things.
And also, parents, especially in preschoolers, the parents are the main users. So it's really important how they feel about it. For example, we just evaluated a recent automated insulin delivery system in preschoolers. And the impact on glycemic outcomes is something, but the impact on quality of life, for example, sleep of parents. So these parents can now function normally. They are not deprived of sleep every day. They can go back to work. So it's really a game changer for them.
So we should never forget that the burden that diabetes places on those living with the condition.
Indeed.
Let me introduce my other 2 guests, Pieter Gillard from the University Hospital in Leuven, and Julia Madder, frequent visitor to our sofas, from the University of Graz. Your specialty is technology. Where are we going with technology? Just outline some of the developments you think will happen in the near future.
Yeah. So there is a lot of things happening. The future is always happening. So what we see now here at EASD is sensors became smaller, more wearable, there was more connectivity. So and there is more use in other patient populations than where it started. Type 1, we have now populations of type 2 diabetes, people with other diseases, cystic fibrosis, we have use in hospital, in elderly patients, and so on. So this is happening already, but this will further and further increase. The sensors themselves will also improve. I think they are already quite accurate, but we can always improve further. And we will see sensors coming that not only measure glucose, but also other metabolites, such as lactate, ketones, potassium. So a lot of things happening in the field of sensors. The data that are coming out of those sensors are also transferred more and more to apps that can use those data to inform the people using the sensors, but also inform healthcare practitioners. And we also foresee more and more connectivity with electronic patients' diaries and systems.
So an integration of
Integration is
patient
very
records.
important.
And are we also seeing personalization? Because we're seeing sensors to match different skin tones. We're seeing sensors that are more appropriate to children, sensors that are more appropriate to older adults who are worried about their frail skin and adhesives. Is that a trend as well?
I see people confirming this. I'm not seeing it already, but perhaps other can comment on that. It's not. It's important because we started with that white button on the skin. There are, of course, ways of dealing with that already now, but the manufacturers are not. I think they can speed up the evolution there. I think another very important evolution is concerning AID systems. So we have already very good performing AID systems, but next steps are there already. We should work further on decreasing the burden for people around meals, improving postprandial hyperglycemia, for instance. So the ideal no-touch system is already on the horizon. It's here already at EASD, but it will take some years before it will be in all of our patients, but we are getting there.
So miniaturization, AI, increasing integration with records, it's extraordinary what's happening.
Incredible.
It really is. But Julia, with all of this comes a concern about standardization, which I know is one of the things that you're interested in.
Yeah, so I think one of the big concerns is that we do now have a lot of companies who try to dive into the field of diabetes technology, who try to develop new sensors, new technologies. Of course, it's a valid point that we need to have access for more people, that we need maybe the competition to make the systems more affordable for people. But on the other hand side, we should not trade that in for performance of the systems. And we have seen that some of the systems perform very well in euglycemia, but it's relatively easy in very stable conditions to have a good performance. So what jointly EASD and ADA should really drive here, and also the European Commission, if we talk about Europe, is that we should look into standards, and only sensors that are performing well enough should then be licensed. So currently it's quite easy to get CE mark, but that does not necessarily mean that the performance is good enough.
And the other thing we should talk about is equity, because access is an issue, but also equity in terms of things that perhaps we don't think about enough, things like, people's access to Wi-Fi, because as Pieter, as you said, so many people have apps that are integrated with their technology, and unless you have the app, then the technology doesn't function properly. So, is that an issue you're dealing with?
Definitely, and there were recent publications emphasizing it, that, for example, being born in a, let's say, rural environment, it's definitely like a risk factor for glycemic outcomes, but we can mitigate that with an access to technology. So we should not be a gatekeeper. So we are not the ones who decide who get it. So we strongly encourage all the policymakers to acknowledge this is the most beneficial thing that we can offer. It is mitigating disparities. So we can, just to make accessible technology, we can mitigate disparities, which I guess is really important message.
I'm going to return to you, Anna, because you're not a technology specialist. You were the editor, reviewer of this particular supplement. What has it taught you about technology that perhaps you didn't know before?
I guess it's shown me how much technology can really do now. I'm impressed with what technology can really offer people living with diabetes. And on a personal note, my nephew is a person living with type 1 diabetes, and I can see how the technology enables him to have a reasonably normal teenage life, even though I do know that he wishes that it would do more things for him, especially when he exercises, something that he highlights.
Like show YouTube videos and all those other things. Thank you all. Now, the Diabetologia Symposia is absolutely one not to miss. Those symposiums are always amongst the best in the EASD programme. You can, of course, see it on demand too. And let me mention again this splendid supplement. Are you seeing it? I'm just looking at the cameraman. Yes, you can. Marvellous. So, thank you all very much for coming, and there'll be more on EASD TV very soon.